My name is Marlene, and I'm 28 years old. I stood on the front porch of my childhood home, holding a worn suitcase that felt heavier than it should. 3 years. 3 long years since I'd been here. My hand shook as I reached for the doorbell, but before I could press it, the door swung open. My sister Diane stood there, her face twisting into something ugly. "Why are you even here?" she shouted, loud enough for the neighbors to hear. Behind her, my parents appeared in the hallway. My father Gerald and mother Patricia, standing side by side like a wall. Mom's voice came cold and flat. "You're not welcome here." I looked past them into the living room and saw decorations, balloons, a table full of presents. Today was Diane's birthday, and I hadn't been invited. Before we dive into what happened next, let me ask you something. Where are you watching this from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. I'd love to know who's listening to my story. And if you want to hear how this nightmare unfolded, hit that like button and subscribe. Trust me, what comes next is going to shock you. You won't believe what my own family did to me. Let me take you back 3 years to when everything fell apart. Back then, I had what I thought was a normal family. Sure, things weren't perfect, but whose family is? I worked as an accountant at a small firm in Portland. Nothing fancy, but it paid the bills. I'd just bought my first apartment, a tiny one-bedroom place that I was so proud of. It took every penny I had saved since college. My sister Diane was 5 years younger than me. She'd always been the baby of the family, the one who got away with everything. When we were kids, if something broke, I got blamed. If someone ate the last cookie, I got yelled at. Diane learned early on that tears could get her out of any situation. She'd cry, point at me, and our parents would believe her every single time. Dad was a retired carpenter, the kind of man who believed in hard work and discipline. At least, that's what he preached to me. For Diane, the rules were different. She could skip school, come home late, quit jobs after a week, and he'd just shrug and say she was finding herself. Mom was a homemaker who spent most of her time cooking elaborate meals for Diane and planning parties for her friends. I can't remember the last time Mom threw a party for me, but I accepted it. That's just how it was. I was the responsible one, the boring one, the one who didn't need attention. I told myself it was fine. Then one evening in April, Diane showed up at my apartment without warning. She was crying before she even stepped inside. Her mascara ran down her cheeks in black streaks. "Marlene, I need your help," she sobbed. "It's urgent." I sat her down on my second-hand couch and made her tea. "What's wrong?" She sniffled, wiping her nose with the back of her hand. "You know my boyfriend, Vincent? Well, his friends started this amazing tech startup. They're developing an app that's going to revolutionize online shopping. But they need investors. This is my chance, Marlene. My chance to finally do something big with my life." I felt a knot forming in my stomach. "How much do you need?" $15,000. She said it like it was nothing. Like I had that kind of money just lying around. I took a deep breath. "Diane, I can't. I just used all my savings for the down payment on this place. I'm barely making my mortgage payments as it is." Her face changed instantly. The tears stopped. Her eyes went hard. "Are you serious right now? Your own sister is asking for help and you're going to say no." "It's not that I don't want to help. I literally don't have the money." She stood up, knocking the teacup over. Hot liquid spilled across my coffee table. "You're so selfish, Marlene. You've always been selfish. You only care about yourself. I can't believe I thought you'd actually help me for once." "Diane, please understand." "No, you understand something. You're not my sister anymore. A real sister would find a way. But you? You're just a heartless, selfish witch who doesn't deserve any family at all." She stormed out, slamming my door so hard the walls shook. I sat there staring at the spilled tea, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. But I thought she'd cool off. I thought she'd realize I wasn't being mean. I just genuinely didn't have the money. I was so wrong. 2 days later, my phone rang. It was Dad. He didn't even say hello. "How could you?" His voice was shaking with rage. "How could you treat your sister like that? Dad, What are you talking about? Don't play dumb with me. Diane told us everything. She came to you for help, and you didn't just say no. You told her she was stupid. You said she didn't deserve money because she'd just waste it. You called her a failure. My blood went cold. That's not what happened. Dad, I never said any of those things. Don't lie to me. Your sister was crying for hours. Your mother had to give her a sleeping pill. You broke her heart, Marlene. Dad, please listen. All I said was that I couldn't lend her the money because I don't have it. That's all. She's lying. The line went quiet for a moment. Then Mom's voice came on. She must have grabbed the phone from Dad. We raised you better than this, she said, and her voice was even colder than Dad's. To think our own daughter could be so cruel. Don't bother coming home for Sunday dinner anymore. You're not welcome. They hung up. I tried calling back. No answer. I sent texts. They were ignored. I even drove to the house the next weekend. When I knocked, Dad opened the door just wide enough to tell me to leave. Through the gap, I could see Diane standing behind him. She wasn't crying. She wasn't upset. She was smiling, a small, satisfied smile that she quickly hid when Dad looked back at her. But I saw it, and in that moment, I understood. This wasn't about the money. This was planned. She wanted me gone. For the next 3 years, I became a ghost to my own family. Every holiday passed without a call. My birthday came and went with silence. I sent cards, letters, emails, nothing. It was like I had died, except I was still breathing, still living, still hoping that somehow they'd realize the truth. Living without your family is strange. People don't realize how many little moments involve them until they're gone. I'd be at the grocery store and see a daughter shopping with her mother, laughing over which brand of pasta to buy. I'd pass by families at restaurants, kids complaining about homework while parents rolled their eyes with affection. Every single time, it felt like someone was squeezing my heart. My apartment became my prison and my sanctuary. After work, I'd come home to silence. No texts asking how my day was. No calls inviting me to weekend barbecues. Just me, my microwave dinners, and the television playing shows I didn't really watch. My coworkers noticed something was off. My friend Iris, who worked in the cubicle next to mine, finally cornered me one day. Marlene, you want to talk about it? She asked gently. I told her everything. The money, the lies, the exile. She listened without interrupting, and when I finished, she just hugged me. That's messed up, she said. But maybe you're better off without them. I knew she meant well. Everyone who knew the truth said the same thing. Cut them off. They're toxic. You don't need people like that in your life. And logically, I knew they were right. But the heart doesn't work on logic. Late at night, I'd pull out old photo albums. There was one picture I kept coming back to. I was 10 years old, standing next to Dad in his workshop. Had just taught me how to use a level, and I was grinning so wide my cheeks must have hurt. He had his hand on my shoulder, looking proud. That Dad felt like a different person from the one who'd slammed the door in my face. Work became my escape. I threw myself into it completely. I stayed late, volunteered for extra projects, learned new software programs on weekends. My boss noticed. 18 months after the family split, I got promoted to senior accountant. 6 months after that, I became an accounting manager. The raises helped. I paid off my apartment 3 years early and even started a savings account. But success at work didn't fill the hole in my chest. Sometimes I'd draft texts to Mom. Hi Mom, just wanted to let you know I got promoted. Delete. Mom, I hope you're doing well. I miss you. Delete. Mom, please talk to me. Delete. 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 Then one ordinary Tuesday afternoon, everything changed. I was at the supermarket buying groceries when I heard someone call my name. Marlene, is that you? I turned around and saw Hazel, an old friend of Mom's from church. We'd known each other since I was a kid. She looked older now, more wrinkles around her eyes, but her smile was the same. Mrs. Hazel, how are you? Oh, getting by. These old bones don't work like they used to, she laughed. Then her expression shifted to something more serious. Honey, I'm so sorry about your father. My stomach dropped. What about my father? Her eyes widened. Oh no. You don't know? Marlene, your dad was diagnosed with lung cancer 2 months ago. He's doing chemotherapy now. I just assumed. I mean, I thought you'd be there helping out. The supermarket suddenly felt too bright, too loud. Cancer. Dad had cancer, and nobody told me. We're not in touch right now. Hazel frowned. That's a shame. Family should stick together, especially during times like this. You know where they live. Maybe you should go visit. After she walked away, I stood frozen in the cereal aisle for I don't know how long. A stock boy finally asked if I was okay. I lied and said yes. That night, I didn't sleep. I kept thinking about Dad. Was he okay? How bad was the cancer? Was he scared? And the thought that killed me most, was he asking for me? By morning, I'd made my decision. I packed a small suitcase, called in sick to work, and got in my car. The drive from Seattle to Portland was 3 hours, but it felt like 3 minutes and 3 years at the same time. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. On the highway, memories played through my mind like a movie. Dad teaching me to ride a bike, his huge hands steadying me until I found my balance. Dad at my high school graduation, trying not to cry when I gave my valedictorian speech. Dad helping me move into my first college dorm, grumbling about all the stairs but refusing to let me carry the heavy boxes. When had it all gone wrong? Maybe it was always wrong, and I just didn't see it. Maybe Diane was always the favorite, and I was always the backup daughter, the reliable one, the one they didn't have to worry about, so they didn't bother to. I merged onto the exit for Portland and felt my chest tighten. What was I going to say? Would they even open the door? Part of me wanted to turn around and drive back to Seattle, pretend I never heard about the cancer. Let them deal with it as a family, the family they'd chosen, the one that didn't include me. But I couldn't, because despite everything, despite the pain and the rejection and the loneliness, Gerald was still my father, and I couldn't let him face cancer without at least trying to be there. I pulled up to the house just after 2 in the afternoon. The lawn was freshly mowed. Mom's rose bushes were blooming pink and yellow. Everything looked exactly the same as it had 3 years ago. Like time had frozen this place while the rest of the world moved on. I grabbed my suitcase from the trunk and walked up the driveway. Each step felt heavier than the last. When I reached the front porch, I noticed something I hadn't seen from the street. Balloons tied to the mailbox. A happy birthday banner partially visible through the living room window. Music playing inside. My finger hovered over the doorbell. This was a mistake. I should leave. The door opened. And that's when my sister screamed at me. Diane's eyes went wide when she saw me, but not with surprise, with fury. Pure, burning fury. Why are you even here? She didn't ask it. She shouted it. Loud and sharp enough to make me flinch. I tried to keep my voice steady. I heard about Dad. I came to help. Help! She laughed, but there was no humor in it. You think we need your help? You think you can just show up after 3 years and act like nothing happened? By now, people inside had stopped talking. I could hear footsteps approaching. Then Mom and Dad appeared behind Diane, and my heart nearly stopped. Dad looked thinner. His face was gaunt, his eyes sunken. The chemotherapy had taken his hair. He was wearing a baseball cap, but I could see the bare skin at the edges. Dad, I whispered. He didn't smile, didn't soften. You heard your sister. You're not welcome here. Mom put her hand on his shoulder. Gerald, don't strain yourself. Then she looked at me with ice in her eyes. Leave, Marlene. This is a family gathering. And you made it clear 3 years ago that you don't care about this family. That's not true. I never stopped caring. I never save it. Diane crossed her arms. We don't want to hear your excuses. Behind them, I could see maybe 20 people in the living room. Neighbors, family, friends, people I'd known my whole life. They were all watching now, whispering to each other. I felt like an animal in a zoo. I forced myself to stay calm. Dad, please. I just want to talk. Can we go somewhere private? There's nothing to talk about, he said quietly. Go home, Marlene. But I didn't move. I couldn't. Not after driving 3 hours. Not after 3 years of silence. I'm not leaving until you hear me out. What Diane told you 3 years ago was a lie. I never called her stupid. I never insulted her. All I said was Diane cut me off. Oh, here we go again. Still can't take responsibility for your own words. She turned to face the room full of guests, raising her voice. Everyone, this is my older sister Marlene, the one I told you about, the one who abandoned our family 3 years ago. She put her hand to her chest like she was performing in a play. When I needed her most, when I was trying to start my own business, she called me worthless. She told me I'd never succeed at anything. She said I was too stupid to handle money. Gasps rippled through the crowd. An older woman I recognized as Mrs. Fletcher from down the street shook her head disapprovingly. A younger couple near the back whispered to each other, shooting disgusted looks my way. That's not what happened. My voice came out louder than I intended. Desperate. I told her I couldn't lend her money because I didn't have it. That's all I said. She's lying. Diana's eyes started filling with tears. Real. Actual tears. I almost admired how good she'd gotten at this. You see, she's still trying to gaslight me. Even after all this time, she can't just admit what she did and apologize. Mom rushed to Diane's side, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. How dare you come here and upset her on her birthday? Haven't you done enough damage? I opened my mouth to respond, but then someone else spoke up. Wait just a minute. An elderly woman pushed through the crowd. Rita, the next-door neighbor who'd lived beside us for 30 years. She used to give me cookies when I walked home from school. I remember that day 3 years ago, Rita said slowly. I was in my garden, and I heard Diane on her phone in your backyard, Patricia. Diane's face went pale. Aunt Rita, I don't think. Hush, child. Let me speak. Rita looked around at the crowd. Diane was talking to someone, I assume a friend. She was laughing. And I distinctly heard her say, "It worked perfectly. I told Mom and Dad that Marlene said all those horrible things, and they completely believed me. They cut her off just like I wanted." The room went silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Diane's tears dried up instantly. You must have misheard. You're 83 years old, your hearing isn't. My hearing is just fine, thank you very much. Rita turned to Mom and Dad. I didn't say anything at the time because I thought it was just sisters bickering. I didn't realize you'd actually cut Marlene out of your life over it. But now that I see her standing here, looking like a lost puppy, I can't keep quiet. I wanted to hug Rita. I wanted to cry. Finally, someone was telling the truth. But Dad shook his head. Rita, I appreciate you trying to help, but you must be confused. Diane wouldn't lie about something like that. Of course she wouldn't, Mom agreed quickly. Rita, dear, maybe you should sit down. This heat isn't good for you. Just like that, they dismissed her. Rita looked at me with sad, sympathetic eyes, but she didn't push further. She was old, and nobody was going to believe her over their precious Diane. Diane grabbed my father's arm. Dad, please make her leave. She's ruining my party. My doctor said you need to avoid stress, remember? And that did it. Dad's expression hardened even more. Marlene, I'm going to ask you one more time. Leave. If you don't, I'll call the police. I looked at each of their faces. Dad, exhausted and sick. Mom, protective and angry. Diane, smirking behind her hand where they couldn't see. The party guests, judging me without knowing the truth. I picked up my suitcase. I'm staying in town, I said quietly. I'm at the Rose Garden Inn if you change your mind. Nobody responded. I walked back to my car with 20 pairs of eyes burning into my back. As I drove away, I glanced in the rearview mirror. Through the living room window, I could see Diane hugging our parents. She looked over their shoulders, directly at my car, and smiled. Shed one. Again. I checked into the Rose Garden Inn, a cheap motel on the edge of town that smelled like cigarettes and pine sol. The room had a saggy bed, a television from the 90s, and a water stain on the ceiling that looked like a map of Texas. But it was all I could afford if I was going to stay in Portland for more than a couple days. I sat on the bed and cried. Not pretty crying. Ugly, gut-wrenching sobs that made my whole body shake. 3 years of holding it together came pouring out all at once. I cried until my throat hurt and my eyes swelled up. When I finally stopped, I lay on the bed staring at that water stain. I thought about just leaving. Going back to Seattle and never looking back. Let them be a happy family without me. Maybe everyone was right. Maybe they were toxic and I was better off alone. My phone buzzed. A text from Iris. How did it go? I typed back. Disaster. They hate me more than ever. Come home. You tried. That's all you can do. She was right. I should go home. But something stubborn in me refused. I hadn't driven 3 hours just to give up after one conversation. Dad was sick. Whether he wanted me there or not, I was going to find a way to help him. I fell asleep in my clothes and woke up at 7 in the morning to my phone ringing. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Hello, Marlene. Mom's voice. Cold and clipped. I sat up straight. Mom, I'm so glad you called. Please, I just want to not calling to reconcile. I'm calling to tell you that you need to return the money you stole. My brain couldn't process what Shed just said. What? Yesterday. When you came to the house. You went into my bedroom and took $2,000 from my purse. I never went into your bedroom. I never even made it past the front door. Diane saw you. She watched you slip away when everyone was distracted by Rita's little speech. The money is gone, Marlene. We counted. $2,000 in cash. The room started spinning. Mom, I swear to you, I didn't take any money. I wouldn't do that. Of course you deny it. Just like you denied saying those things to Diane 3 years ago. Her voice cracked slightly. I can't believe I raised a thief. Your father and I are ashamed of you. Please, you have to believe me. Return the money by the end of the week. Or I'm filing a police report. She hung up. I stared at my phone in disbelief. Diane had done it again. Shed planted evidence, or lied, or somehow made it look like I'd stolen money I never touched. And of course Mom and Dad believed her. They'd always believe her. I called back. No answer. I called 5 more times. Nothing. Then I made the mistake of checking Facebook. My hands were shaking as I scrolled to Diane's page. Shed posted an hour ago. Heartbroken today. My own sister came to my birthday party yesterday and stole money from my sick father's house. I wanted to believe Shed changed, but some people never do. Please keep my family in your prayers during this difficult time. The post already had 200 likes, 50 comments. I scrolled through them, each one making me feel sicker. I'm so sorry, Diane. Some people have no shame. Your sister is trash. You're better off without her. I hope she gets arrested. Stealing from a cancer patient is disgusting. Stay strong, girl. Family doesn't always mean blood. Someone had shared the post. Then someone else shared it. It was spreading through our hometown like wildfire. I recognized names. Old classmates. Former neighbors. The lady who ran the coffee shop I used to study at in high school. All of them seeing this lie. All of them believing I was a thief. I tried to comment, to defend myself. Diane had blocked me. I tried messaging people directly. Most didn't respond. The ones who did said things like, "We know the truth," and "Stop harassing Diane." I threw my phone across the room. It hit the wall and the screen cracked. I didn't care. What was the point of having a phone if nobody wanted to hear from me anyway? For 2 days, I barely left that motel room. I ordered pizza that I didn't eat. I watched television shows I didn't understand. I took long showers and pretended the water running down my face was just water, not tears. On the 3rd day, I forced myself to get up, forced myself to think clearly. Diane was destroying me, yes, but she was also getting sloppy. If she was lying about the money, there had to be evidence. People who lie eventually trip themselves up. I opened my laptop and pulled up Diane's Instagram. She posted there even more than Facebook. I scrolled back through her posts from the last few months. 2 weeks ago, a photo of her and some guy at an expensive steakhouse. Date night with my amazing boyfriend Vincent. The restaurant in the background was Laurel's, the fanciest place in Portland. I knew for a fact their steaks started at $60. 1 month ago, a picture of a designer handbag. Treated myself. Sometimes you have to invest in quality. 2 months ago, her standing in front of a brand new car. Finally got my dream ride. Hard work pays off. I sat back and stared at the screen. These were not the posts of someone who'd lost their entire investment 3 years ago. These were not the posts of someone struggling financially. She had money. Lots of it. So where had it come from? I kept scrolling, going back further. 6 months ago. 8 months. A year. Every few weeks, another expensive purchase. Another fancy dinner. Another weekend trip to wine country or the beach. And then I saw it. A post from 9 months ago. A photo of Diane and a different guy. Arms around each other at a bar. The caption said, "Missing my babe Clark. Hes away on business but will be reunited soon. Clark." The name rang a bell. I pulled out my cracked phone and searched through my old emails, back to 3 years ago when everything fell apart. There. An email Diane had sent me a week before she asked for the money. Shed forwarded me an article about some tech startup with a note. "Look how cool this is. Clark and his friend might make millions." Clark. The boyfriend with the startup. The one she needed $15,000 to invest in. The one Shed told our parents I refused to help her support. If I could find Clark, maybe he'd tell me the truth about what really happened with that money. I spent the next day trying to track down Clark. I didn't even know his last name. All I had was his first name and the memory of Diane mentioning some tech startup 3 years ago. I felt like a detective in a bad movie. Except detectives in movies always find what they're looking for in 20 minutes. I spent 6 hours getting nowhere. Finally, I did something desperate. I created a fake Facebook account. Generic name, stock photo of a random woman. No personal information. Then I scrolled through Diane's friends list looking for anyone named Clark. There were 4. I clicked on each profile. Clark Henderson, 60 years old, lived in Florida. Not him. Clark Yu, 17 years old, probably a cousin or family friend. Definitely not him. Clark Morrison, 32 years old, lived in Portland, worked in tech. Bingo. I clicked on his profile. It was set to private, but I could see his profile picture. Tall guy, brown hair, glasses. He looked familiar. I must have met him at some family thing years ago. I tried to send him a message, but Facebook wouldn't let me since we weren't friends. I needed another approach. I Googled his name plus Portland tech startup. The 4th result was an article from 2 years ago in a local business journal. Local entrepreneur bounces back after failed venture. I clicked it. The article talked about how Clark Morrison had tried to start a company developing a shopping app but ran out of funding. Had lost his own savings and had to move back in with his parents for a while. But now he was working as a project manager at a software company and getting back on his feet. My heart was racing. This was the startup. This was the investment Diane had wanted money for. But according to this article, Clark had lost his own money. Nothing about investors, nothing about Diane. At the bottom of the article was a quote from Clark. "The hardest part wasn't losing the money. It was being betrayed by someone I trusted. But I've learned from that experience, and am stronger for it." Betrayed by someone he trusted. Was he talking about Diane? I had to find him. I searched for the software company mentioned in the article. Cascade Systems. I looked up their address. They were downtown, about 2 miles from my motel. The next morning, I put on the most professional clothes I'd packed and drove to their office. It was in a modern building with glass walls and a lobby that smelled like expensive coffee. The receptionist smiled at me. "Can I help you?" "I'm here to see Clark Morrison." "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but it's urgent. Personal matter." She picked up her phone and called someone. After a brief conversation, she hung up and said, "He'll be down in a few minutes." I waited in the lobby, my leg bouncing nervously. What was I going to say? "Hi. You don't know me, but I think my sister screwed you over 3 years ago and I need you to help me prove it." That sounded insane. Before I could come up with a better plan, the elevator dinged and Clark stepped out. He was wearing a button-down shirt and khakis, looking tired but professional. He glanced around the lobby, confused. Someone needed to see me. I stood up. Clark? Hi, I'm Marlene, Diane's sister. His entire body went rigid, his jaw clenched. I have nothing to say to you people. Wait, please. I stepped in front of him before he could walk away. I know you have no reason to trust me, but I need 5 minutes. Please. Diane has been lying about me for 3 years, and I think she lied about you too. He studied my face, suspicion in his eyes. What do you want? The truth. About what really happened with your startup. About where the money went. Something shifted in his expression. He glanced at the receptionist, who was pretending not to listen but obviously was. Not here. There's a coffee shop across the street. Meet me there in 10 minutes. He walked back to the elevator without waiting for a response. I left the building and found the coffee shop, a cozy place called Brewed Awakening. I ordered a coffee I didn't want and sat by the window. Exactly 10 minutes later, Clark walked in. He got himself a coffee and sat down across from me. Talk, he said. I told him everything. The request for money 3 years ago. The lies Diane told our parents. The exile. Coming back to find Dad sick. The birthday party disaster. The stolen money accusation. Clark's face didn't change much as I spoke, but I could see his knuckles turning white around his coffee cup. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "She told me you gave her $15,000. My breath caught. What? 3 years ago. Diane came to me with $15,000 in cash. She said her sister had given it to her to invest in the startup. We used it for the initial development costs. Then she disappeared." What do you mean disappeared? He took a sip of his coffee. 2 months after she gave me the money, Diane broke up with me. Said she needed space. Then she blocked me on everything. I tried to contact her because we needed to discuss the business, but she vanished. The app development kept going, but we ran out of money after 6 months. The startup failed. I lost my savings, and I never saw Diane or that $15,000 again. I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. So she did have the money. She didn't get it from me, but she got it from somewhere. I assumed from you. That's what she told me. He rubbed his face. I've spent 3 years thinking your family supported her entrepreneurial dreams while I was the idiot who lost everything. But you're saying she lied about that too. I never gave her a penny. I couldn't. I was broke. Clark laughed bitterly. So where did she get $15,000 in cash? We looked at each other as the same thought occurred to both of us. Your parents, Clark said slowly. She must have gotten it from them. Of course. Diane had gone crying to Mom and Dad about her mean sister who wouldn't help. And they, being the wonderful parents they were, probably gave her the money themselves. Then she told them I'd given it to her, invested it in a fake startup with her boyfriend, and when it all fell apart, blamed me for refusing to help in the first place. Shed played everyone. Mom, Dad, Clark, me, all of us. I need proof, I said urgently. Do you have any records? Text messages, emails, anything showing that Diane told you I gave her the money? He pulled out his phone and scrolled through it. I don't delete messages. I'm paranoid about keeping records for work. He kept scrolling, going back years. Here. He turned his phone toward me. It was a text conversation from 3 years ago. Diane had written, "Great news, babe. My sister Marlene came through. She gave me $15K to invest. She said she believes in us. Let's make her proud." Clark had responded, "That's amazing. Tell her thank you from me. This is going to change everything." I took a photo of his screen with my cracked phone. "Can you send me screenshots of your whole conversation with her? Everything about the money and the startup. Why? What are you going to do? I don't know yet. But I can't let her keep destroying my life. And according to the article I read, she destroyed yours too." His expression softened slightly. "Yeah, she did. I lost my apartment. Had to move back in with my parents at 30 years old. My credit score tanked. It took 2 years to recover." He started typing on his phone. "I'm sending you everything. Every text, every email. I saved it all because I kept thinking one day I'd have the guts to sue her for fraud. But I never did. My phone buzzed repeatedly as file after file came through. "Thank you," I said, and I meant it from the bottom of my heart. "You have no idea what this means to me." "I think I do." He finished his coffee and stood up. "Look, I know we don't know each other, but from one victim of Diane to another, take her down. Whatever you're planning, make sure she can't do this to anyone else." I nodded. "I will." As I watched him leave, I felt something I hadn't felt in 3 years. Hope. Real, solid hope. I had evidence now. I had proof that Diane was a liar. But I needed more. I needed something so undeniable that even Mom and Dad couldn't ignore it. I spent the rest of the day going through Clark's messages. Most of it was lovey couple stuff that made me feel gross reading. But scattered throughout were mentions of the money. Diane talking about how generous I was, how I'd always supported her dreams, how she was so lucky to have a sister like me. Lies. All lies. But then I found something interesting. An email from Diane to Clark, sent about a month before she broke up with him. "I'm having second thoughts about this whole startup thing. What if it fails? What if we lose all that money? I don't think I can handle the stress. Maybe I should just keep the money safe instead of risking it." Clark had responded, "Babe, we already spent most of it on development. There's only about $3K left. We have to see this through." Diane's reply, $3K isn't enough. I need more security than that. Maybe this was a mistake. Shed wanted to pull out. Shed seen the startup failing and tried to save her own skin, but it was too late. The money was gone, so she dumped Clark, blocked him, and moved on with her life, leaving him to deal with the consequences. And now, 3 years later, she was living large. New boyfriend, expensive dinners, designer purses, new car. Where was all that money coming from? Vincent, probably. Her new victim. I needed to find out more about Vincent. If I could prove Diane was scamming him the same way Shed scammed Clark, maybe I could build a case that she was a serial manipulator. Maybe then Mom and Dad would finally believe me. I went back to Instagram, found Diane's photos with Vincent. He was younger than Clark, probably mid-20s, good-looking in a bland, generic way. His Instagram was public. I clicked on his profile, Vincent Carrington. Worked in finance, drove a Mercedes, wore expensive watches. Every photo screamed money. And Diane was with him in half the pictures, always wearing something new and expensive. In the captions, Vincent called her his queen and the love of his life. Head posted a photo from 2 months ago of them at a fancy hotel. The caption said, "Weekend getaway with my beautiful girlfriend. Can't wait to spend the rest of my life with you." The rest of his life. They'd only been dating for 10 months according to the earliest photos? And he was already talking about forever? I felt sick. Because I knew how this would end. Diane would take whatever she could get from him, then disappear when things got complicated. Just like she did with Clark. Just like Shed tried to do with me. Unless I stopped her first. 3 days later, everything got worse. I was eating breakfast at a diner near my motel when Iris called. "Have you seen the Portland news?" she asked. "No, why?" "Your dad was taken to the hospital last night. It's on the local news website. They're saying it's serious." I dropped my fork. "What hospital?" "Street Vincent's." "Marlene, be careful." "Your family." I hung up and ran to my car. Street Vincent's was on the other side of town. I drove 20 miles over the speed limit, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. Dad was in the hospital. The cancer must have gotten worse. And I hadn't been there. I'd been hiding in a motel room collecting evidence while my father was dying. I parked illegally in a loading zone and sprinted into the emergency room. The nurse at the desk looked startled. "I need to find Gerald Thompson," I gasped. "He was brought in last night." She typed on her computer. "Hess, in ICU. 4th floor. But visiting is restricted to immediate family only." "I am immediate family. I'm his daughter." She gave me a visitor badge and directions. I ran to the elevator, jabbing the button repeatedly like that would make it come faster. The ride to the fourth floor took forever. When the doors finally opened, I rushed out and followed the signs to the ICU and ran straight into my mother. She was standing outside a room, talking to a doctor. When she saw me, her face twisted with rage. "What are you doing here? Mom, please. Is Dad okay? Don't you dare." She stepped in front of me, blocking the doorway. "You have no right to be here. No right to act like you care." "I do care. Has my father." The doctor looked uncomfortable. "Mrs. Thompson, maybe we should—" "No." Mom's voice was sharp. "This woman is not welcome here. She's been harassing our family for days. She stole money from us. She's the reason Gerald's condition got worse." I stared at her. "How can you possibly blame me for that?" "Because the stress of your presence has been killing him." Mom's eyes were red and puffy. "She'd been crying. He couldn't sleep. Kept worrying about why you came back, what you wanted. The doctors said stress affects cancer patients. You did this, Marlene. You hurt him." "That's not true. I just wanted to help Liz." Diane appeared from inside the room. Her eyes were dry. No tears. She walked right up to me and shoved me. Hard. I stumbled backward. "You're poison. Everything you touch turns toxic. Why can't you just leave us alone?" A security guard appeared, drawn by the commotion. "Is there a problem here?" "Yes," Mom said immediately. "This woman needs to leave. She's not family." "I am family." My voice cracked. "I'm his daughter." The doctor stepped forward. "Perhaps everyone should calm down. Mr. Thompson needs peace and quiet right now. All of this shouting isn't helping anyone." "She's right," Diane said. But she was looking at me when she said it. "You're not helping. You're making everything worse. Just like you always do." The security guard touched my elbow gently. "Miss, I'm going to have to ask you to leave." "No." I jerked my arm away. "I have a right to see my father. Not if the family doesn't want you here." The guard's voice was kind but firm. "Come on now, let's not make this harder than it has to be." I looked past them, through the window into Dad's room. I could see him in the hospital bed, tubes and wires connected to him, monitors beeping. He looked so small, so fragile. This man who used to seem like a giant when I was little. This man who taught me how to hammer a nail and change a tire and balance a checkbook. He was dying, and he didn't even want to see me. The doctor was watching me with pity in his eyes. "I promise we're taking good care of him," he said softly. "Dr. Randall, by the way. I'm his oncologist." "Is he going to be okay?" I whispered. Dr. Randall glanced at Mom and Diane before answering. "He had a setback, but we're optimistic. The cancer itself isn't worse. He had a panic attack last night that mimicked a heart attack. Very scary, but ultimately manageable." "A panic attack caused by you," Diane interjected. "He kept saying your name. Kept asking why you came back. You traumatized him." "That's enough, Diane," Dr. Randall said firmly. Then to me, "The best thing for Mr. Thompson right now is calm and rest. Whatever family issues you all have, they need to wait until he's stronger." The security guard touched my elbow again. This time I didn't resist. I let him lead me back to the elevator. As we walked away, I heard Deanne's voice carry down the hallway. "She's been doing this for years, you know, causing drama, making everything about her." In the elevator, the security guard said, "For what it's worth, you don't seem like a bad person." I almost laughed. "You're the first person in Portland who thinks so." Back in my car, I sat in the parking lot and cried. Again. I was so tired of crying. So tired of being pushed away. So tired of feeling like a villain in a story where I'd done nothing wrong. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But something made me pick up. "Hello? Marlene, it's Rita, from next door to your parents." I sat up straight. "Mrs. Rita. Honey, I've been thinking about you ever since that birthday party. I felt terrible for not doing more to defend you. So I did some investigating of my own." "What do you mean?" "I went through some old photos on my phone. I take a lot of pictures of my garden, you see. and I found something interesting from 3 years ago." She paused. "I have a photo of Diane in your parents' backyard, dated the day after you supposedly refused to help her. She's on the phone, and she's laughing. I enhanced it on my computer, and you can see in the background, through the window, your mother writing a check." My heart started racing. A check for $15,000. I can't see the amount, but it's definitely a check. And the date matches. "I thought you should know, Mrs. Rita, can you send me that photo?" "Of course, dear. What's your number?" I gave it to her. 30 seconds later, my phone buzzed with the photo. It was exactly what Shed described. Diane on the phone, smiling. And through the kitchen window behind her, Mom at the table with a checkbook. This was it. This was the proof that Mom and Dad had given Diane the money, not me. Combined with Clark's messages, I could prove everything. But would Mom and Dad even look at it? Or would they find some way to dismiss this too? I needed to go bigger. I needed something they couldn't ignore. And then I remembered Diane's Facebook post about me stealing money. Shed made the accusations public, which meant my defense needed to be public too. I needed to confront her in front of everyone, in a way that she couldn't run from or explain away. I needed witnesses, I needed evidence, and I needed a plan. I sat in that parking lot for 2 hours, thinking. And slowly, an idea formed. A risky, terrifying, possibly stupid idea. But it was all I had. Gerald's cancer fundraiser was in 5 days. Diane had posted about it on Facebook. A big event at the community center. All their friends and neighbors invited. There would be speeches, there would be testimonials, there would be a microphone, and I was going to use it to tell the truth. All of it, with proof. I just needed to make sure Clark would back me up. And I needed to find a way to get Vincent to listen. Because if I could prove to him that Diane was a liar before she destroyed him too, maybe I could save at least one person from her. I called Clark. He answered on the 3rd ring. "Marlene, I need your help. One more time. And I know I have no right to ask, but what do you need?" I told him about the fundraiser, about my plan to expose Diane publicly. "I need you there. I need you to back up my story, and I need you to help me talk to Vincent." There was a long silence. Then, "I'm in. What do you need me to do?" I spent the next 2 days trying to contact Vincent. I sent him messages on Instagram, Facebook, even LinkedIn. All of them went unanswered. Either he wasn't checking his messages, or Diane had warned him about me. Clark tried too. He sent Vincent a friend request with a message. "Hey man, I don't know you, but we have something in common. We're both dating the same person." "Well, I was 3 years ago. Can we talk?" No response. On the 3rd day, I broke down. I sat in that depressing motel room, staring at my cracked phone screen, and felt the weight of everything crushing me. 3 years of exile. My father dying and thinking I was the villain. An entire town believing I was a thief. And Diane, winning at everything while I lost everything. I called Iris. "I can't do this anymore," I said, my voice hollow. "Maybe they're right. Maybe I should just disappear. Don't talk like that." "Why not? Nothing I do matters." "I have proof, Iris. I have evidence that Diane lied about everything, and nobody cares. Mom and Dad won't even look at it. They've decided I'm the bad guy, and nothing will change their minds. You've come this far. Don't let that witch win. She already won. She won 3 years ago." Iris was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that changed everything. "Remember when we were in college, and you thought you failed your CPA exam?" I frowned. "Yeah. So, you were so convinced you'd failed that you didn't even check your results for a week. You just assumed the worst. But when you finally looked, you'd passed with flying colors. Sometimes we get so deep in our own heads that we can't see reality anymore. This is different, is it? Or have you decided this story ends with Diane winning because that's easier than fighting?" Her words hit me hard. Because she was right. Somewhere along the way, I'd stopped believing I could actually win. I'd been going through the motions, collecting evidence, making plans, but deep down I'd already accepted defeat. "What if I fight and still lose?" I whispered. Then at least you tried. At least you can look in the mirror and know you didn't let her break you. After we hung up, I sat there thinking. Iris was right. I couldn't give up. Not yet. Even if the fundraiser was a disaster, even if nobody believed me, I had to try. For me, for Clark, for Vincent, for anyone else Diane might hurt in the future. That's when Clark called. I found something. You need to see this. What is it? Remember how I said I'm paranoid about keeping records? Well, I still had access to Diane's old email account. The password hasn't changed. And I found something from 2 weeks ago. Clark, that's illegal. Do you want to hear this or not? I shut up. Diane sent an email to her friend Felicia. I'll forward it to you. But here's the relevant part. Quote, still can't believe my plan actually worked 3 years ago. Marlene was always the favorite when we were kids. Dad thought she was so smart, so responsible. Made me sick. But now I'm the golden child and she's nothing. Best decision I ever made was framing her. End quote. I couldn't breathe. She admitted it. She actually admitted it in writing. There's more. She goes on about how she's doing the same thing with Vincent, getting him to propose by faking a pregnancy. Says once they're married, she'll have access to his money, then she'll divorce him and take half. It's all laid out like a business plan. Send it to me. Now. My phone buzzed with the email. I read it 3 times, my hands shaking. This was it. This was undeniable proof that Diane was a manipulative liar. Even Mom and Dad couldn't deny an email where she confessed everything. There's one problem, Clark said. I obtained this illegally. If we use it, Diane could claim it's fake or that I hacked her account, so we use it to convince Vincent first. We show him what she's planning. Then he can confront her himself, and if he doesn't believe us, then we go public at the fundraiser anyway. With or without him. Clark was quiet. Marlene, I need to know you're serious about this. Because if we do this and it backfires, it could get messy. Diane could press charges for hacking. She could sue us for defamation. I'm serious. I'm done being scared of her. Okay then. Let's do this. We spent the rest of the day planning. Clark would track down Vincent's work address and Wed ambush him during his lunch break. Wed show him the email, Clark's old text messages, everything. Wed make him see who Diane really was. But then, that night, something happened that almost destroyed our plan completely. I was eating dinner at a diner when Rita called again. Marlene, honey, I'm so sorry. Sorry for what? Diane came to my house this afternoon. She showed me some text messages you supposedly sent her 3 years ago. Horrible, cruel things. Called her stupid, worthless, a failure. Said she'd never amount to anything. My blood ran cold. Those are fake. I never sent those messages. I know, dear. I know. But she showed them to other people too. The whole neighborhood is talking about it. She's telling everyone that you've been cyberbullying her for years. That's insane. She's making it all up. I believe you, sweetheart, but I'm just one old lady. Most people are believing her. Rita's voice cracked. I'm sorry. I tried to help, but I think I made things worse by speaking up at the party. Now Diane knows you have at least one person on your side, so she's working harder to discredit you. After Rita hung up, I felt that crushing weight again. Diane was always one step ahead, always had a backup plan, always knew how to manipulate the narrative. I looked at the email Clark had sent me, the confession, the smoking gun. But was it enough? Or would Diane find some way to explain it away? I thought about giving up again, walking away, letting Diane have her victory. But then I remembered what Iris said. At least I'd know I tried. And I thought about Vincent, some guy I'd never met who was about to marry a woman who would destroy his life. Didn't he deserve to know the truth? The next morning, Clark and I met outside Vincent's office building. It was a sleek high-rise downtown. He works on the 12th floor, Clark said. Finance department. His lunch break is at noon. We waited in the lobby. At 12:15, Vincent walked out of the elevator. He was on his phone, laughing at something. He looked happy, oblivious. Vincent Carrington. I called out. He turned, confused. Do I know you? No. But you know my sister, Diane. In Marlene. His expression changed immediately. Guarded. Cold. I have nothing to say to you. Please. Just give us 5 minutes. This is important. Diane told me you might try to contact me. She said you've been harassing her family for years. That you're unstable. He started walking past me. Clark stepped in front of him. Hey man, I'm Clark Morrison. I dated Diane 3 years ago. Before you, there was me. And before me, there were probably others. We need to show you something. Vincent hesitated. What are you talking about? I pulled out my phone. We have proof that Diane has been lying to you. About a lot of things. Including being pregnant. His face went pale. How do you know about that? Because she's done this before. This is her pattern. She finds a successful guy, makes him fall in love with her, gets what she wants, then disappears. I held up my phone. Please. Just read this email. Vincent looked at Clark, then at me, then at my phone. Finally, he took it. I watched his eyes move across the screen, reading Diane's confession to Felicia. His face went through several emotions. Confusion, disbelief, anger, horror. This can't be real, he whispered. I wish it wasn't, Clark said quietly. But I lived through this 3 years ago. She took money from me, said it was for our future together, then vanished. I lost everything. Vincent handed my phone back. His hands were shaking. I need to think. There's more, I said. Diane has been telling everyone I'm a terrible person, that I stole from my sick father, that I bullied her. All lies. She did the same thing to Clark, turned everyone against him when the startup failed. She's going to do it to you too once she's gotten what she wants. Vincent's jaw clenched. The pregnancy. Is that fake too? I don't know for sure, I admitted. But according to that email, yes. He closed his eyes. I proposed last week. She said yes. We're supposed to get married in December. I'm sorry, Clark said, and he meant it. I know what you're feeling right now. The betrayal, the humiliation. But you can still get out. You're not married yet. You can walk away. Vincent opened his eyes. They were wet. I need proof. I need to see for myself. Then come to the fundraiser tomorrow night, I said. We're going to confront her publicly, with evidence. You can see for yourself who she really is. He nodded slowly. I'll be there. As we watched him walk away, Clark turned to me. One more day. Are you ready? I took a deep breath. I have to be. The community center was packed. I counted at least 150 people, maybe more. Banners hung from the ceiling. Fight for Gerald, and Together Against Cancer. There was a buffet table with donated food, a silent auction with baskets of wine and gift cards, and a small stage at the front with a microphone and projector screen. I stood at the back of the room, trying not to be noticed. Clark was beside me, his laptop bag slung over his shoulder. I've got everything loaded, he whispered. The emails, the text messages, Rita's photo. As soon as you give me the signal, I'll put it up on the projector. What if they kick us out before we get the chance? Then we post everything online and hope it goes viral. I scanned the crowd for Vincent. I spotted him near the buffet table, looking miserable. He caught my eye and nodded slightly. At least he showed up. Diane was at the front of the room, playing hostess. She wore a tasteful black dress and had her hair pulled back in a simple bun. Morning chic. She hugged people as they arrived, thanking them for coming, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. Mom and Dad sat in the front row, Dad in a wheelchair. He looked better than he had in the hospital. Some color had returned to his face. The fundraiser coordinator, a cheerful woman named Janet, stepped up to the microphone. Thank you all for coming tonight. We're here to support the Thompson family during Gerald's fight against cancer. We've raised nearly $20,000 so far, which is just incredible. Applause filled the room. I felt sick. All these people, all this money, all this love for my family. And I was the outcast, the villain, the one who didn't belong. Janet continued. We're going to hear from a few people tonight. First, Patricia Thompson will say a few words. Then Diane. And finally, Gerald himself wants to share his gratitude. Mom walked slowly to the microphone. She looked so tired, so worn down. "Thank you all," she began, her voice shaking. "These past few months have been the hardest of our lives, but knowing we have this community behind us has made all the difference. Gerald and I are so blessed to have friends like you. And we're especially blessed to have our daughter Diane, who has been our rock through everything." Diane stood up and blew Mom a kiss. People awed. "Family is everything," Mom continued. "And we're grateful for the family we have. The people who truly care about us, who stand by us in hard times." Her eyes swept the room and landed on me for just a second. The message was clear. "You're not family. You don't belong here." Mom finished her speech, and Diane took her place at the microphone. "Hi everyone. I just want to echo what my mom said. Family is everything. True family. The people who love you unconditionally, who would never hurt you or abandon you when you need them most." She looked directly at me. So did half the room. "Some people pretend to care," Diane continued. "They show up when it's convenient, make a scene, cause drama. But real family? Real family sticks around. They don't disappear for 3 years and suddenly come back expecting everything to be fine." More people turned to look at me. I felt my face burning. Clark touched my arm. "Hold steady," he whispered. "So I just want to thank all of you, our real family, for being here tonight." Diane's voice broke convincingly. "Dad has weeks, maybe months left if the treatment doesn't work, and I want him to spend that time surrounded by people who actually love him." The room erupted in applause. People were crying. It was a beautiful moment, and I was about to ruin it. Diane started to step away from the microphone, but I moved forward. "Wait," I called out. My voice barely carried over the applause. "I have something to say." The room went quiet. All eyes on me. Janet, the coordinator, hurried over. "I'm sorry, but we have a schedule. You weren't on the list of speakers." "I know. But I need to say something. Please. 5 minutes." Diane's face went white. "No, absolutely not. Get her out of here." But Gerald spoke up from his wheelchair. His voice was weak but clear. "Let her speak." Everyone looked at him in surprise. Diane rushed to his side. "Dad, you don't have to," I said. "Let her speak." Dad looked at me. "Say what you came to say, Marlene. Then leave." I walked to the front of the room on shaking legs. Clark followed, setting up his laptop and connecting it to the projector. Diane tried to stop him, but Dr. Randall was there. "Let's just hear what she has to say," he said gently. "If it's nonsense, then well no. But everyone deserves a chance to speak." I took the microphone. My hands were sweating. 150 faces stared at me. Some curious, some hostile, some pitying. "My name is Marlene Thompson," I began. "I'm Gerald's daughter, and for the past 3 years, I've been exiled from this family based on lies." Diane scoffed loudly. "Here we go." 3 years ago, Diane asked me for $15,000 to invest in her boyfriend's startup. I told her I couldn't because I'd just bought an apartment and was broke. That's all I said. But she went to our parents and told them I'd called her stupid, worthless, a failure. She cried. She performed. And they believed her. Because it was true. Diane shouted. "It wasn't." Clark pressed a button. The projector screen lit up with text messages. "This is a conversation between Diane and her boyfriend Clark from 3 years ago. See where she writes, 'My sister Marlene came through. She gave me $15K to invest.'" Murmurs rippled through the crowd. People leaned forward to read. "But I never gave her that money," I continued. "Clark, do you want to explain?" Clark stepped forward. "I'm Clark Morrison. 3 years ago, I was dating Diane. She gave me $15,000 in cash, said it came from Marlene. We used it for startup costs. Then the business failed. Diane broke up with me and disappeared. I lost everything." Diane was shaking her head. "That's not true. You're lying. I have receipts, bank deposits, emails." Clark clicked through several images on the screen. "But here's the interesting part. Marlene never gave Diane that money, so where did it come from?" I nodded at Clark. He put up Rita's photo. The one showing Diane in the backyard while Mom wrote a check through the window. Our neighbor Rita took this photo 3 years ago. The date stamp is right here. The day after I supposedly refused to help Diane, and you can see Mom in the background writing a check. The crowd was silent now, paying attention. Diane got the money from our parents, I said. Then she told them I'd given it to her, that I was supporting her dreams. When the startup failed, she blamed Clark, broke up with him, and moved on. And she let our parents think I was a cruel sister who'd refused to help. This is ridiculous. Diana's voice was shrill. Those are photoshopped. Shay's making all of this up. Am I? I looked at her, then explained this. Clark pulled up the email. The confession to Felicia. As people read it, the room erupted. Oh my God. She admitted it. This can't be real. Diane lunged at Clark, trying to grab the laptop. Stop! This is private. You hacked my account. Yes, I did. Clark admitted calmly, and am willing to face whatever legal consequences come from that. But this email is real, and it proves everything. Vincent stood up. The room quieted. He walked slowly to the front. Diane, he said, his voice cold. Are you pregnant? Her face went pale. Vincent, I can explain. Are you pregnant? Tears filled her eyes. I thought I was. I really thought. No. He pulled something from his pocket. A pregnancy test. I found 3 of these in your purse yesterday. Fake positive tests you can buy online. Were you planning to show me one of those and claim it was real? The room gasped. Diane looked around wildly. You went through my things? You violated my privacy. You faked a pregnancy to manipulate me into marriage. Vincent's voice broke. How long have you been planning this? Vincent, please, just listen. But he wasn't done. He turned to the crowd. This woman told me her family was broken because of her cruel sister. She cried about it. I felt so sorry for her. I proposed to her because I wanted to give her the stable family she'd lost. But it was all a lie. Shay's the cruel one. She destroyed her own family and blamed someone else. Mom stood up. Diane, is this true? Did you lie about Marlene? Mom, did you lie? Dad's voice was quiet but firm. Diane looked at her parents. At the crowd. At me. And I saw the exact moment she realized she'd lost. That there was no way to spin this. No way to cry her way out. So what if I did? Her voice changed, hard and bitter. Marlene was always the favorite. Always the smart one, the responsible one. Dad thought she was perfect. You never looked at me the way you looked at her. That's not true, Gerald said softly. Yes, it is. She got all the praise, all the attention. I was just the pretty disappointment. So yes, I lied. Yes, I framed her. And you know what? For 3 years, I was the one you loved. I was the golden child. It felt amazing. Patricia covered her mouth. Tears streamed down her face. How could you? Because I was sick of being second best. I did what I had to do to get attention. And it worked. Diane's voice was rising, frantic. I was finally the favorite. You finally cared about me. We always cared about you, Dad said. His voice was shaking. We loved you both equally. No, you didn't. You never did. And I don't care if you believe me or not. I don't care about any of this. Diane grabbed her purse. I'm done. She stormed toward the exit. Vincent called after her. Diane! We're not finished. Yes, we are. Lose my number. The door slammed behind her. The room was dead silent. 150 people trying to process what they'd just witnessed. Finally, Dad spoke. Marlene. I looked at him. His eyes were wet. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry. Mom was already walking toward me. She reached out, hesitant, like she wasn't sure if I'd let her touch me. I stood frozen. My baby. Mom sobbed. What did we do? What did we do to you? And then I was in her arms, both of us crying. Dad wheeled himself over and wrapped his arms around both of us. We stood there in the community center, holding each other while 150 witnesses watched. I'm sorry, Dad kept saying. I'm so sorry. I forgive you, I whispered. And I meant it. The weeks after the fundraiser were strange. Like waking up from a long nightmare and not quite believing you're awake. Mom and Dad called every day. Sometimes just to talk about nothing. Sometimes to apologize again. Sometimes just to hear my voice. I didn't move back to Portland right away. Seattle was still my home. But I drove down every weekend. We had a lot of healing to do, and it wasn't going to happen overnight. The first real conversation we had was 2 weeks after the fundraiser. I sat in their living room, the same one I'd been kicked out of multiple times, and Dad looked at me with sad, tired eyes. "We failed you," he said simply. "For years, we failed you. And I don't know how to make that right." "You can't change the past," I replied. "But we can try to fix the future." Mom asked the question I'd been wondering about. "Where's Diane?" "She moved to Los Angeles," I said. I'd heard through Rita's gossip network. Changed her name to Diana Langley. Started fresh out there. Should we try to find her? To talk? I thought about that. Did I want to see Diane again? Did I want an apology from her? Maybe someday. But not yet. The wounds were too fresh. "Let her go," I said. "She needs to figure out who she is without us, and we need to figure out who we are without her drama." Dad nodded. "You're right. You've always been the wise one," I snorted. "I'm not wise. I'm just tired." Dad's cancer treatment continued, and I went with them to appointments when I could. I met Dr. Randall properly this time. Not as an unwanted intruder, but as a daughter. He shook my hand. "I'm glad you fought for the truth," he said. "Your father needs all his children right now. Well, the ones worth having." The treatment was working. Slowly but surely, Dad was getting better. By month 3, the tumors had shrunk significantly. By month 6, he was in remission. The doctors couldn't promise it wouldn't come back, but for now, he was cancer-free. As for Vincent, he broke off the engagement immediately. I heard he moved to San Francisco for a fresh start. I felt bad for him. He was just another victim in Diane's wake. But at least I'd saved him from marrying her. Clark and I stayed in touch. At first it was just texts about the legal aftermath. Diane threatened to sue both of us for hacking and defamation. But her lawyer took one look at the evidence and advised her to drop it. "You'll lose spectacularly," he apparently told her, "and it'll all become public record." So she dropped it, moved to LA, disappeared. Clark and I started meeting for coffee when I came to Portland, just as friends at first. Two people who'd survived the same storm. But somewhere around month 4, it became something more. He asked me out properly. Dinner at a nice restaurant, not just coffee at a chain shop. "Is this weird?" I asked him. "Dating someone who dated my sister." "Probably," he admitted. "But we've been through weirder together. Might as well see where this goes." It went well. Really well. A year later, Clark proposed. Not with fake pregnancy tests or manipulation. Just him, on one knee in the park where we'd had our first real conversation, asking if I wanted to build a life together. I said yes. The wedding was small, just close friends and family. Dad walked me down the aisle. Had regained his strength, put on some healthy weight. He looked like himself again. When he placed my hand in Clark's, he whispered, "You deserve this happiness. You deserve everything good." Mom cried through the whole ceremony. Happy tears this time. Rita sat in the front row beaming like a proud grandmother. Dr. Randall came too, which surprised me. "I don't get many happy endings in my line of work," he explained. "I like to celebrate them when I do." At the reception, I gave a speech. 5 years ago, I thought I'd lost my family forever. I thought I'd be alone for the rest of my life. But I learned something important. Family isn't just about blood. It's about who stands by you when everything falls apart. It's about who fights for the truth even when it's hard. It's about forgiveness and second chances, and choosing to love even after being hurt. I looked at Clark, at Mom and Dad, at Iris, who'd flown in from Seattle, at Rita, at all the people who'd believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself. I learned that sometimes the family you choose is stronger than the family you're born into. And am so grateful to have both. 3 days after the wedding, a letter arrived. No return address. Just my name on the envelope. I almost threw it away without opening it, but curiosity won. Inside was a single page. Diane's handwriting? Marlene, I'm sorry. I know you probably don't believe me, and I don't blame you. I've spent the last 2 years in therapy trying to figure out why I did what I did. The therapist says I have narcissistic tendencies and abandonment issues from childhood. I don't know if that's an excuse or an explanation. Maybe both. Maybe neither. I hurt you. I hurt Clark. I hurt Mom and Dad. I hurt myself. And I can't take any of it back. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even know if I forgive myself. But I wanted you to know that I see it now. I see what I did. And am trying to be better. I hope you're happy. I hope Dad's healthy. I hope you found the family you deserved. Diana. I read it 3 times, sat with it. Showed it to Clark. What do you think? He asked. I think she means it. But I also think I'm not ready to respond. That's fair. I put the letter in a drawer. Maybe someday I'd write back. Maybe someday we'd have a conversation about what happened and why. But not today. Today I had a husband who loved me. Parents who finally saw me for who I was. A career I was proud of. A life I'd built from the ashes of the worst thing that ever happened to me. Diane had tried to destroy me, but I'd survived. I'd fought back. I'd won. Not because I'd beaten her in some grand showdown, but because I'd refused to let her define my story. I'd refused to become bitter and broken. I'd chosen healing over hatred, forgiveness over revenge, truth over comfortable lies, and that, I realized, was the real victory. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever been blamed for something you didn't do? Have you dealt with a toxic family member who everyone else believed over you? How did you handle it? Drop your story in the comments below. And if this story helped you feel less alone in your own struggles, hit that like button. Subscribe if you want to hear more real-life stories about surviving family drama, betrayal, and finding your way back to yourself. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, someone who's fighting their own battle against lies and manipulation. Let them know they're not alone. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for believing me even when my own family didn't. And remember, the truth always comes out eventually. It might take time, it might be painful, but it's worth fighting for. Stay strong out there. You're tougher than you think.